The marble lobby of Mercy Heights Hospital fell silent except for the sound of Raymond Torres's ragged breathing and the distant wail of an alarm. In his arms, unconscious and pale as death, lay a young woman in designer clothes. Blood trickled from a gash on her temple. Around them, doctors and nurses frozen mid-step stared with expressions Raymond couldn't quite read. Shock, yes, but something else. Something that made his stomach twist. Someone help her. Raymond's voice cracked with desperation. His janitorial uniform was soaked with sweat, his arthritic hands trembling from the exertion of the catch that had nearly broken him. But no one moved. Not yet. Dr. Patricia Chen stood at the nurse's station, her hand hovering over the emergency call button, her face drained of color. She whispered. That's Victoria Harrington. And Raymond understood then why the silence felt so heavy, so wrong. Because Victoria Harrington wasn't just any patient. She was the daughter of the man who owned this hospital, the man who held every person in this building in his palm, the man who, 3 months ago, had promised to fire the next person who wasted his time with false emergencies. But let's go back to where this really started, to the morning when Raymond Torres arrived for his shift at 4 a.m., just like he had every day for the past 7 years. Raymond's keycard beeped as he entered through the staff entrance, his reflection in the glass doors showing a man of 53 who looked older. His janitorial uniform hung loose on a frame that had once been strong, back when he worked construction, before the accident that shattered his spine and left him with a permanent limp. The night shift supervisor, Marcus, nodded in greeting. Morning, Ray. 4's 3 through 7 today. Executive Wing's hosting some big donor event tonight. So Mr. Harrington wants everything perfect. Raymond's jaw tightened at the name, but he nodded. James Harrington, the hospital's owner and CEO, was a man whose presence Raymond felt even when he wasn't there. His policies had cut staff, reduced benefits, turned Mercy Heights from a community hospital into a profit machine. But Raymond needed this job. His daughter Sophia was in her 2nd year at State College, working 2 jobs alongside her classes because Raymond's disability settlement had barely covered high school. This job, humble as it was, paid her tuition. He'd mop floors until his hands bled if it meant she could have the life he'd lost. He gathered his supplies, mop, bucket, cleaning solutions that made his eyes water, and began his rounds. 4th floor first, starting with the executive wing, where hospital administrators had offices with views and coffee machines that cost more than Raymond made in a month. The hallways were empty this early, just the hum of ventilation and the distant beep of monitors. Raymond moved with practiced efficiency despite his limp, his movements economical from years of chronic pain. He'd learned to work through it, to let the ache become background noise. He was finishing the 7th floor executive corridor when he heard it, a sound that didn't belong. A soft crying, muffled, coming from the stairwell. Raymond hesitated. The executive wing was off limits to most staff, a world of its own. Getting involved in things that weren't his business had a way of backfiring. But the crying had a quality that tugged at his heart, desperate and young. He pushed open the stairwell door. A young woman sat on the landing between floors, knees pulled to her chest. Early 20s, with honey blonde hair and clothes that probably cost more than Raymond's monthly rent, silk blouse, tailored pants, heels kicked off beside her. Her eye makeup had run in dark streaks down her pale cheeks. She looked up, startled, and Raymond recognized her from the hospital newsletter. Victoria Harrington, the CEO's daughter, recently appointed to some vague, special projects role that everyone knew was nepotism dressed up as corporate structure. I'm sorry, Raymond said, quietly, starting to back away. I didn't mean to intrude. No, wait. Her voice was thick with tears. Please, I need someone to talk to, and everyone here either works for my father or is terrified of him, and I can't. She broke off, fresh sobs shaking her shoulders. Raymond should have left. Every instinct screamed at him to leave. But something in her face, in the raw desperation there, reminded him of Sophia during her senior year when she'd nearly given up on college because she couldn't imagine asking him for money he didn't have. He sat down carefully on the step below her, his bad leg extended. Rough morning. Victoria laughed, a broken sound. Rough life. She wiped her eyes with the back of her hand. You're going to think I'm ridiculous. Poor little rich girl crying in a stairwell. Try me. And she did. The words spilled out like she'd been holding them back for years. About a father who saw her as an extension of his brand, not a person. About a mother who'd left when Victoria was 12 because staying meant disappearing entirely. About the pressure to be perfect, to smile at donor events, to pretend the hospital was saving lives when she knew her father was cutting corners to maximize profit. He fired 6 nurses last month, she whispered. Good nurses. Single parents, some of them. But their salaries looked bad on a spreadsheet, so they were gone. She looked at Raymond with red-rimmed eyes. Do you know what that makes me? An accomplice. Because I show up, I smile, I shake hands, and I take a paycheck for doing nothing while people lose everything. Raymond was quiet for a long moment. You ever think about standing up to him? Every day? But I'm terrified. He controls everything. My apartment, my car, my credit cards. If I cross him, I lose it all. She laughed bitterly. God, listen to me. You probably think I'm pathetic. I think you're human, Raymond said. And I think being scared doesn't make you weak. But staying silent when you know something's wrong? That'll eat you alive eventually. Victoria studied him with new attention. What's your name? Raymond Torres. People call me Ray. Ray the janitor who gives therapy sessions in stairwells. A small, genuine smile broke through her tears. Thank you. Really. She stood up, wobbling slightly. I should get to my office before my father notices I'm late. He's all ready. She stopped mid-sentence, her face going strange. Pale. Her hand went to her temple. Miss Harrington, I'm fine, just dizzy. I haven't been sleeping well. And her eyes rolled back. Raymond lunged forward, his bad legs screaming in protest, and caught her as she collapsed. The impact drove him to his knees, pain exploding through his spine, but he held on, cradling her head to protect it from the concrete steps. Help, he shouted. Someone help. Raymond's arms burned as he carried Victoria down the stairs, each step sending lightning through his damaged spine. She was slight, maybe 120 pounds, but his body hadn't been built for this kind of strain in years. Sweat poured down his face. His vision blurred at the edges. But he didn't stop. He burst through the stairwell door into the main lobby, and that's when time seemed to stop. Dr. Patricia Chin looked up from the nurse's station, her expression shifting from annoyance to shock. 2 other nurses froze mid-conversation. A security guard's hand moved toward his radio, then hesitated. Someone help her. Raymond gasped, lowering Victoria as gently as he could onto a nearby chair. His hands were shaking so badly, he could barely hold her. She collapsed, hit her head. She's not responding. Dr. Chin rushed forward, her training overriding everything else. She checked Victoria's pulse, her pupils, the wound on her temple where she'd struck the railing before Raymond caught her. Get a gurney. Now. But the other nurses didn't move. They stood frozen, staring at Victoria's unconscious form with expressions Raymond couldn't parse. What are you waiting for? Dr. Chin snapped. The younger nurse, Rachel, according to her name tag, spoke in a trembling whisper. Dr. Chun, that's Victoria Harrington. If we activate emergency protocols and it turns out to be nothing serious, I don't care who she is. Mr. Harrington sent a memo last month. Rachel's voice cracked. After that false alarm with the donor's wife, he said the next person who wasted hospital resources on theatrical nonsense would be terminated immediately. This could be, what if she just fainted? What if she's fine? Dr. Chin's face went white. Raymond watched the conflict play across her features, the Hippocratic oath warring with the very real fear of losing everything. The security guard spoke up. Mr. Harrington is on the 3rd floor right now. Someone should get him. Let him decide. Let him decide if his daughter gets medical care. Raymond's voice cut through the paralysis like a blade. Are you people insane? You don't understand, Rachel said. Mr. Harrington doesn't accept excuses. Nurse Martinez called an ambulance for a board member who turned out to be having a panic attack, and she was fired within the hour. 2 kids at home, and she was escorted out by security. So you're going to let his daughter die because you're scared of him? Raymond's hands clenched into fists despite the pain. What happened to you people? You're supposed to be healers. Dr. Chin's face hardened with decision. Get me a gurney. Now. I'll take responsibility. No. Everyone turned. A man in an expensive suit stood at the top of the main staircase, his presence commanding immediate attention. James Harrington descended slowly, his handmade shoes clicking on marble, his silver hair perfectly styled, his expression cold as winter. He crossed the lobby with measured steps, his gaze never leaving his daughter's unconscious form. Raymond found himself stepping protectively between them, some instinct overriding common sense. Harrington stopped. For the first time, he seemed to actually see Raymond, really see him. And what Raymond saw looking back was not the concern of a father, but the assessment of a businessman calculating risk. What happened to my daughter? Harrington's voice was controlled, dangerous in its calmness. Raymond's throat was dry, but he met Harrington's gaze. She collapsed in the stairwell, hit her head. She needs help. Now. And you are? Raymond Torres. Janitorial staff. Something flickered in Harrington's expression. The janitor who cost me $40,000 in workers' comp modifications after complaining about accessibility issues. It wasn't a question. I remember you. Raymond had pushed for wheelchair ramps and accessible bathrooms after watching a patient's elderly mother struggle with the stairs. The modifications had been legally required, but Harrington had made it clear he considered them a personal affront. Your daughter needs medical attention, Raymond repeated, his voice steady despite the fear. Sir. Harrington's jaw tightened. He turned to Dr. Chun. What's the situation? Dr. Chun straightened her spine. Possible head injury, syncope event. I need to run tests immediately, CT scan, blood work. Victoria has been under stress lately. Theatrical tendencies. She's probably fine and looking for attention. The words hung in the air like poison. Raymond felt something break loose in his chest, some dam of fear and exhaustion and righteous fury that he'd been holding back for 7 years. She's bleeding, Raymond said quietly. Your daughter is bleeding from a head wound, and you're worried about whether she's being dramatic? The lobby went silent. You could hear the ventilation system, the distant elevator ding, the collective held breath of everyone present. Harrington's face turned the color of old brick. You're speaking to me about my daughter? A janitor is presuming to tell me. A human being is telling you that your child needs help. Raymond's voice rose, cracking with emotion. I don't care if you fire me. I don't care if you have me arrested. But if something happens to her because everyone in this building is too scared of you to do the right thing, that's on you. That's on your soul. Security, Harrington said coldly. Remove this man from the building. The security guard stepped forward, but Dr. Chen moved to block him. Her voice was shaking, but clear. No. Ray's right. Victoria needs immediate care. And if you fire me for providing it, then you can explain to the medical board why you prevented a licensed physician from treating an unconscious patient with a visible head injury. Harrington's expression was unreadable. For a long moment, no one moved. Then he spoke, his voice like ice over steel. Fine. Treat her. But when she wakes up and confirms this was unnecessary hysteria, Dr. Chun, you and Mr. Torres will both be looking for new employment. And I'll make certain you never work in this city again. Understood, Dr. Chun said. She turned to the nurses. Give me that gurney. Now. This time, they moved. As they wheeled Victoria toward the emergency department, Raymond's lights finally gave out. He sank into a chair, his whole body shaking, sweat pouring down his face. He'd just ended his career. 7 years of keeping his head down, of swallowing pride and anger, of doing whatever it took to pay Sophia's tuition, gone in 5 minutes of speaking truth to power. But when he closed his eyes, all he could see was Victoria's pale face, her desperate tears in the stairwell, and he knew he'd do it again. Some things mattered more than survival. Raymond sat in the lobby for 40 minutes, watching staff give him wide berths like he carried something contagious. Maybe he did. The courage to defy James Harrington was apparently a disease no one wanted to catch. His phone buzzed. Sophia. Dad, just checking in. Big exam today. Wish me luck. She'd added 3 heart emojis. Raymond's eyes burned. He typed back. You'll do great, Mija. So proud of you. He didn't add that he might not be able to help with next semester's tuition. Didn't want to distract her before the exam. The security guard, the same one who'd been ready to drag him out, approached hesitantly. Mr. Torres? Mr. Harrington wants to see you in his office. 3rd floor. Raymond's stomach dropped, but he nodded. He hauled himself up, ignoring the screaming protest from his back, and made his way to the elevator. The ride up felt like ascending to an execution. Harrington's office was all glass and chrome, with a view of the city that reminded visitors exactly how high up they were in more ways than one. The man himself stood at the window, his back to the door. "Sit," he said without turning. Raymond remained standing. His legs wouldn't hold much longer, but he'd be damned if he'd take orders from this man. Harrington finally turned. His face was harder to read now, the cold fury replaced by something more complicated. "Dr. Chen's preliminary assessment indicates my daughter has been experiencing severe migraines, possibly triggered by stress and lack of sleep. The fall caused a concussion. If she'd been left untreated," he stopped, swallowed. "The consequences could have been serious." Raymond said nothing. "You saved her life," Harrington continued, the words sounding forced, unfamiliar in his mouth. "I should thank you." "But you won't," Raymond said quietly. "Because thanking me means admitting you were wrong. That your policies created an environment where your own employees were too terrified to help your daughter." Harrington's expression flickered. "You have no idea what it takes to run a hospital. The financial pressures, the impossible choices. I know what it takes to survive on $12 an hour while you cut benefits to increase shareholder returns," Raymond interrupted. "I know what it's like to choose between my kids' textbooks and my pain medication. I know what it's like to watch good people, nurses who actually care, get fired for having the audacity to do their jobs. And yet you helped Victoria anyway, knowing I'd fire you. Because she needed help. That's not complicated." Harrington was quiet for a long moment. When he spoke again, his voice was different, smaller somehow, and older. "Victoria told me what you said to her in the stairwell. About staying silent when you know something's wrong. About how it eats you alive." He moved to his desk, sank into his chair. "She's been saying the same thing to me for months. About the staff cuts, the benefit reductions. I told her she didn't understand business." "She understands people," Raymond said. "Maybe that's what you forgot how to do." Harrington's hands clenched on his desk. "Do you have children, Mr. Torres?" "A daughter. Sophia, 20 years old." "Then you know what it's like to want to give them everything. To build something that ensures they'll never struggle." Harrington's voice was raw now, the CEO mask cracking. "I grew up in poverty. Real poverty. I built this hospital from nothing, and I told myself every decision I made was to protect what I'd built. To protect Victoria's future. By creating a workplace so toxic your employees were scared to save her life." The words hit like a physical blow. Harrington flinched. "When my father died, he left us with nothing but debt. I swore I'd never let my daughter experience that vulnerability. Never let her depend on the mercy of people who might not give it." He looked up, and his eyes were haunted. "But I made her safe by making everyone else afraid. And when she needed help, that fear almost killed her." Raymond's anger softened slightly, not into forgiveness, but into something more complicated, understanding, maybe, of how a person could become a monster while believing they were being a protector. "So what now?" Raymond asked. Harrington straightened, and some of the steel returned to his voice. But it was different now, not cold, but determined. "Now I make changes. Real ones. I'm reinstating the 6 nurses who were let go, restoring the benefit packages, and I'm creating an anonymous employee feedback system that reports directly to the board, not to me." "Words are easy," Raymond said. "Your staff will believe it when they see it. Then they'll see it." Harrington opened a drawer, pulled out a folder. "Victoria has been asking me for months to create a patient advocate position. Someone who ensures no one falls through the cracks because of financial or administrative barriers. I told her it was unnecessary overhead." He slid the folder across the desk. "I was wrong. The position pays $45,000 a year with full benefits. It's yours if you want it." Raymond stared at the folder, at the job description that would change everything. Sophia's tuition secure, his own medical care accessible, the chance to actually help people instead of just cleaning up after them. But he didn't touch it. "Not yet." "Why me?" "Because you did the right thing when it cost you everything. That's the person I need in that role. Someone who can't be scared into silence. Someone who'll tell me when I'm wrong." Harrington's voice dropped. "Someone who'll stand between my policies and the people they hurt. The way you stood between my fear and my daughter's life." Raymond's hand trembled as he picked up the folder. Inside were documents, contracts, an organizational chart showing the patient advocate reporting directly to the CEO. It was real. "I accept," he said quietly. "But I have conditions." Harrington's eyebrows rose. "You're negotiating?" "I want quarterly staff meetings where any employee can raise concerns without fear of retaliation. I want the fired nurses contacted today with formal apologies and back pay. And I want a plaque in the lobby. Raymond's voice strengthened. A plaque that says, "A hospital is only as good as how it treats its most vulnerable patients and its most vulnerable staff." For the first time, something like respect crossed Harrington's face. Done. All of it. 2 weeks later, Raymond stood in the hospital lobby, his lobby now, in a way, watching staff come and go. He wore khakis and a button-down shirt instead of a janitorial uniform. His new office was small but real, with a window and a phone that rang constantly with patients and staff who needed someone in their corner. Victoria Harrington approached, her color fully restored, a bright scarf covering the fading bruise on her temple. She carried 2 coffee cups. "Peace offering," she said, handing him one. "For the man who saved my life and my conscience." "Your father did the heavy lifting on the conscience part," Raymond said. "Because you showed him he'd lost his." Victoria smiled. "He's still difficult, still demanding, but he's listening now. Really listening. You know, he spent 3 hours yesterday talking to the nursing staff? Not issuing orders, actually asking what they needed." Raymond sipped his coffee. People can change, if they want it badly enough. His phone buzzed. "Sophia, Dad. I got the internship. They picked me. Also, why didn't you tell me about your promotion? You buried the lead so hard." Raymond laughed, his eyes stinging with happy tears. He showed Victoria the message. "She sounds wonderful," Victoria said softly. "Like her father. She's better than me. She got the courage without needing the hard lessons first." They stood together in comfortable silence, watching the morning sun stream through the lobby windows. The new plaque had been installed yesterday, its brass already gleaming from maintenance. Several staff members had stopped to read it, and Raymond had seen more than one nurse smile. Raymond thought about the moment in the stairwell when he'd chosen to stay, to listen, to care when walking away would have been safer. About the split second when he'd lunged for Victoria despite knowing it would destroy him. About speaking truth to power even when power held every card. He'd spent 7 years believing survival meant silence. That keeping his head down was the same as keeping safe. But real safety, the kind that mattered, came from different soil. From standing up. From speaking out. From being willing to sacrifice comfort for conscience, security for soul. The hospital hummed around him, imperfect, but healing in more ways than one. And Raymond Torres, former janitor, current patient advocate, forever father, knew that sometimes the strongest thing a person could do was catch someone when they were falling, even if it cost everything to hold on. Especially then.